They're shattering the rules all around the way this government works. I mean, and I think Donald Trump to go, listen, let's get back to normalcy. Let's get back to actually respecting each other.
How big Arnold Palmer was? Are you kidding me, Sean?
But listen, we're talking about how the...
No. You tell me, if Joe Biden had stood up there and said, you know, I saw Arnold Palmer in a shower once, and boy, that guy's got it going on down there. What would you have said? That he wasn't fit to lead?
That doesn't affect the way the government works.
We are never surprised when Donald Trump is angry. Donald Trump is AG grieved, or Donald Trump is attacking someone. It is just his nature to constantly complain, constantly whine, and constantly pretend that he is the victim, but who he is the victim of changes day to day. Donald Trump has a fairly long and substantial list of enemies, but what has surprised me is who has been consistently at the top of that list. In the past couple of days, it's the Fox propaganda outlet. Donald Trump has been going to war with Fox for a long time now, because as this election gets closer and tighter, Donald Trump is more insecure than ever. He's feeling the pressure. And so when Fox isn't doing out propaganda on his behalf every waking moment of the day, it gets him pretty angry when there are those minutes of truth that barely spark up on Fox. It gets Donald Trump pretty upset. But more than just a minute, today, Fox made a decision really just stabbing Donald Trump in the back with some of their coverage that has clearly set him off, and we are going to get into that. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way and really means the world to me. Now, like I said, there are always a couple of minutes of truth on Fox. We are going to get into a lot longer than a minute that was played. That's getting Donald Trump upset. But of course, one of our favorites at Fox, often offering a little bit of truth, is Jessica Tarlo. So before we get to that, I want to start with what she had to say.
Well, Joy Behar is responding to things Donald Trump said, not the other way around. And you've seen Donald Trump himself and then J.D. Vance this morning on our own air with Bill Hemmer and Dana struggling to talk about the enemy within comments. He's been given the opportunity to walk it back, to say, oh, maybe I shouldn't name check Adam Schiff and the Pelosi's, and he continues with it. He thinks that Democrats are the enemy within, and he doesn't have a problem with sending the National Guard after them. So Joy Behar is responding to the comments that Donald Trump started. And I want to go back to what Sean was saying about the McDonald's thing. That image, it surely won the day yesterday. And I think that for people who are fans of Donald Trump, that is something that will really resonate. But if you look at what was going on social media on Saturday, for instance, the dominant thread that I was seeing was that Donald Trump couldn't help himself but to talk about how Arnold Palmer was well hung. On Friday, he was saying that Abraham Lincoln should have settled the Civil War. I guess that's the art of the deal, that he could have made a better deal. And then you have the enemy within comments. So if you look at the totality of that for the weekend, I don't think that speaks that well.
Well, the Wall Street Journal took on those recent comments from Joy Behar and said the fear of fascism would have more credibility if Democrats didn't abuse power themselves. If they lose the election against a flawed Mr. Trump, it won't be because he is a wannabe Mussolini. The reason will be the Biden-Harris record.
We can talk all day about how dangerous Donald Trump is, but it hits a little closer to home when it's coming from his vice president, when it's coming from the head of his Joint Chiefs of Staff, when it's coming from his own chief of staff. And that's why we have to continue to call it out and call it that weak defense from those other Fox propagandists going to war with Jessica. And we saw a little bit more of that combativeness that Jessica won out with in this clip right here.
They're shattering the rules all around the way this government works. I mean, and I think Donald Trump to go, listen, let's get back to normalcy. Let's get back to actually respecting each other.
How big Arnold Palmer was? Are you kidding me, Sean?
But listen, we're talking about how the...
No. You tell me, if Joe Biden had stood up there and said, you know, I saw Arnold Palmer in a shower once, and boy, that guy's got it going on down there. What would you have said? That he wasn't fit to lead?
That doesn't affect the way the government works, the way the government functions.
That you have an insane person as the head of the government? And when you say we shatter the norms, maybe the guy who got indicted is the one that shattered the norms.
Maybe it's the lawfare that was used to indict him on bogus charges.
Just real quickly.
What normally is that MAGA Fox House referring to what was the one normal day of the Trump administration, and that point that Jessica rebuts is so important because that lack of normally, the crazed nature, the constant chaos and fear that came out of the Trump administration is again why so many of his former officials are coming out against him, because they know how damaging he is to our country, and they know we couldn't survive another 4 years of him. And that point exact is how Fox stabbed Donald Trump in the back, because they aired some remarks from VP Harris's speaking engagement today with Liz Cheney. And we are going to watch a couple of those clips, but of Vice President Harris talking about one of the most damaging issues to come out in recent days and weeks about Donald Trump. And I want to take a look at it right here.
His intention to weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies, and then you just look at what the people who know him best and worked with him in the Oval Office and the White House have said about him, which is he is unfit to serve and would be dangerous if he were president again. And he, even by the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, has been called a fascist to his core, I am quoting. So what we are talking with folks about today is what I've been talking with folks about since I've been on the campaign trail these last 70-odd days, which is this is a choice for the American people. And it is a choice between whether we're going to chart a new way forward that turns the page on the division, the hate, the chaos of Donald Trump, but also, and maybe even more fundamentally, do we have a president of the United States who stands behind the seal of the president of the United States, taking seriously their oath and their duty to uphold the Constitution of the United States and abide by the rule of law?
Now, I don't know if y'all are listeners of the show Save America, but one of the hosts, Jon Favreau, brought up the point that this story of General Mark Milley calling Donald Trump fascist to his core has only been discussed on Fox twice, breaking news that the network refused to cover. And so the fact that it was aired live, VP Harris's remarks talking about this very quote from Milley, one of the closest observers of Donald Trump, and just how dangerous he is an absolutely crushing blow to Donald Trump. And it's the reason why he is so furious, because of course this story wasn't going to get any coverage by the MAGA Fox host. Not a lot of journalism going on over there, but VP Harris's event with Liz Cheney today highlighted the importance of Republicans coming out against Donald Trump. And we saw more of that, of this clip right here.
It is a metaphor that is meant to also describe my intention to embark on a new generation of leadership. And needless to say, mine will not be a continuation of the Biden administration. I bring to it my own ideas, my own experiences. But it is also about moving past what, frankly, I think has been the last decade of the American discourse being influenced by Donald Trump.
Now, this was an absolutely incredible event for the VP Harris campaign, but for it to be aired on Fox is all the more important because what a perfect picture is being painted. There are so many undecided voters and soft Republicans who tune into Fox, who are watching VP Harris sit down with Liz Cheney while Fox is airing the event, talking about the Republicans who have come out against Donald Trump now. If that isn't a permission structure for an independent or a soft-leaning Republican to say, do you know what? They're right. I have to vote to protect democracy. I have to vote to move this country forward. I don't know what else is. That is a perfect picture. I don't think the VP Harris campaign could have drew that up any better. An incredible closing message to such an important group of voters. And it wasn't just that VP Harris was calling Donald Trump out on Fox for the Republicans who are coming out against her. She had her own call-outs for Donald Trump, like we see right here.
Well, I wonder what is he hiding. I also wonder what his staff is trying to hide by preventing or suggesting he not debate me again, not do these interviews. It is the norm, as you know, that presidential nominees will do a 60 Minutes interview. He has refused to do that. He is pulling out of interviews left, right, and center. And I think that what we see about him in public, whether it be his rallies or, as you said, the would it be called just a solo dance?
I am such a big fan of the way that VP Harris frames Donald Trump's fear of debating her, because she never just says, oh, well, Donald Trump is scared. She also invokes his handlers and the people around him. And I love that wording because it just makes him sound so weak and feeble. Yes, his handlers won't allow him to do this. His handlers won't allow him to speak, because yet he really does need to be controlled because of how out of control he is. And that's why we continue to drive home the point about Project 2025 not only being scary because of the dangerous agenda that it would push, but the people around him that it would empower. And that should be just as scary, because the J.D. Vance of the world will have unchecked power. The Marjorie Taylor Greens, the Matt Gateses, the Laura Lomers. That should scare us, and we need to continue to call it out. And another person who would have a little extra power, who definitely doesn't need it, was called out right here by Liz Cheney.
Who may be disillusioned with what's happening with the Republican Party, but they're afraid of paying the price, because there is a cost to all of that. So what do you say to those Americans?
Well, don't listen to Lindsey Graham, number one. It's good life advice, actually.
I may just have to make "don't take advice from Lindsey Graham" bumper stickers, because that's just such a perfect quote. And we have already invoked one podcast that I really like on the show already, with Pod Save America. I'm going to invoke another. Tim Miller on the Bulwark EK was just talking about how interesting it is that Lindsey Graham, or the J.D. Vance people who were never Trump Republicans, tread to criticize never Trump Republicans now. Because of course, Liz Cheney previously did support Donald Trump. She has seen the light, saw January 6th. What more did she need to see? It has come out against him. Lindsey Graham did the opposite. He saw the depravity of Donald Trump and doubled down after previously coming out against him. And so you see this anger and this angst that Lindsey Graham has confronting his own morality that exists in Liz training that doesn't exist in him, and it makes him feel bad. It makes him feel weak, and it makes him feel small. And I'm glad that Liz Cheney is calling that out. And we're going to keep calling it out every single day on the show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you're stuck around at the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. Until next time, I'll see you soon.